my name is Melinda Penny Washington, and I'm the owner of Healthy Balance 3, which is a company that focuses on holistic health. We focus on diabetes and cancer. However, we also talk about wellness, and so I'm honored to be here today with Jewel Diamond Taylor. And I'm going to allow you, who's like a godmother to me, I want to call you Abba Godmother, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself um, so I can make sure I'm not missing anything.
Oh my goodness. I just see myself as a messenger of hope, empowerment, enlightenment, and wellness. And I've been on the speaking circuit for over 37 years, internationally and nationally. I'm an author, a life coach, a wife, a mother, and a grandmother. And I am an advocate for us, taking back the pages of our culture and allowing it to embrace us and empower us for this thing called life. So I'm like this blouse. I'm many different colors. I show up in many different ways. I'm a faith leader. I'm a psychologist. I'm a life coach. I'm a dancer. I'm a leader. I am the founder of Women on the Grow, which is a nonprofit outreach program that I founded to embrace women that are experiencing diversities and adversity in life. So, whether we are sending funds or books or offering free coaching and counseling to women that are displaced, women dealing with cancer, and you talked about that, women that are single parents, so many women that are exhausted from caregiving, women that are depressed or going through some type of trauma. And because I am a mother whose son went on to glory at 38 years old, I'm also a grief counselor. So I wear many different hats, and I'm so excited to be with you, Melinda, because our conversations are always so stimulating and just exciting to me because you are so thirsty and hungry for knowledge, and I love sharing, my life experiences being here over 70 plus years. It's exciting to know that the youth want to know and have questions and are understanding, how do I connect the dots? How do I survive these interesting times? How do I tap into my cultural DNA and my spiritual DNA and my gifts and purpose and just integrate all of those things to live a life of purpose? And that's what I feel I was born to do.
And you do it so well. And I want to just share how we actually connected also with that said.
Yeah.
All those things I saw in you when I first met you. We met, you were the keynote speaker at an Linus event. And what is Linus's wellness over
Mullins, Linus Mullins in
um,
Sacramento.
yes, I want to make sure I get her company right because she's such a gift to the culture. And so
Uh-huh.
she had an event, Soul Sister Saturday, and you were the keynote speaker, and I was one of the speakers at the end. And your energy aligned with one that was like, your energy felt like a peer, somebody that I grew up with, somebody that was
Mm.
connected to the culture and understood, but had the wisdom of somebody that was an elder. So that connection made me want to learn more about you and made me want to receive the information you have to give and felt like it was very relevant. And
Mm.
so I was thinking, wow, it's been a long time. I love the elders that are in my life. However, I did feel like there's a disconnect. And I noticed it working in long-term care facilities. And I noticed it just seeing different relationships working in dialysis and working in hospitals where the elders in our community haven't been given the same respect, or there's lack of connection than there
Mm-hmm.
was when I was growing up 40 something years ago. And so there was something different about your message. There's something different how you present yourself. I was like, I want to be like her as I age. I haven't seen the
Mm.
aging process as graceful as you are showing us. Um,
Oh.
no shade to anybody else out there, but there's this disconnect. So I thought it was a good idea that we started talking about the conversations that we started to have. So I reached out to you just to catch folks up, and we were having these rich conversations a couple times a month, and I just
Oh
wanted
my
to
gosh.
and share it with everybody.
Yeah, that definitely are rich. I mean, you dig deep, and I'm always wearing the life coach and counseling hat. I love asking questions, and here I was on the other side of the table. You're asking me these phenomenal questions, and you were helping me to really realize the depth of my experiences, all the places I've been, how I have evolved, how I have grown, and the things that prompted me to grow, and then to understand and appreciate the aging process, but as well as knowing how important it is to pour back in to our youth, because I'm seeing something that's it's disturbing, and I know that God is going to work it out, but I know that I have a role as an elder to pour back in. And I remember when I used to hear elder, I thought, oh, I'm elder. I didn't quite vibe with that term, but I understand it, and I am an elder, and I have lived long enough to feel comfortable in my skin to say I can share stories, I can share wisdom, I can share strategies, I can share enlightenment, because I'm not the same person I was when I started. And I know that people are different levels, Melinda. So I don't force people to be where I am. I just like leaving the information so they can chew on it and they can see how it can benefit them to open up their eyes, to be a questioner. I didn't realize that I've always been a questioner. And now
Mm,
I'm seeing it in my grandson. It's like, oh, I'm celebrating that in my little Cody, 6 years old. And I know that if I was the way I was 30, 40 years ago, I would have thought he was being disrespectful. I would have said, oh, be quiet. What are you asking me that for? And sit down and be quiet. Because I came up in a time where children were seen and not heard, and sometimes not even seen. So I celebrate that this generation, they're questioners. But what disturbs me are three things. Can I share those three things?
please, please.
I I I think the comfort that we have that our elders didn't have. I think the conveniences that we have that my elders didn't have. I think the connections that we had are missing. And those three things are, I see that young people are smarter, but they're weaker.
Can you tell me about what you mean by weaker?
Well, we had to study, we had to read, we had encyclopedias, we had to go through things, we had to toughen up. You weren't complaining. I hear so many people complaining. And there's a saying, you never know how heavy the bucket of water is until you carry it. And I think our younger generation has not carried the water that my ancestors carried, which gives them conveniences and comfort. And so it's hot, it's cold. The line is too long. Oh, they hurt my feelings. And you got this cancel culture. You've got people that are checking out and doubting themselves and upset because somebody doesn't approve of them or accept them. They're checking out of relationships and marriages too quickly because they want comfort. They want everything to be easy. And we stand on the shoulders of elders. Life was not easy, and
Say
they
the
they had an yeah,
oh,
they had an endurance factor that I think a lot of young people don't have. Like, well, just email me, fax it to me, hurry up. There's a sense of impatience that is not a good quality when you're going through tough times.
mm,
Uh-huh. Yeah. So I know that elders carry the bucket of civil being left out, being abused, dogs, you know,
right.
no rights, couldn't own property, couldn't, working from sun up to sundown, working 3 or 4 jobs, separated from family,
Mm,
stripped of their culture, stripped of their religion, stripped of their language, and had to adapt. And that's why I always honor them. I do libations. I'm grateful that we have Kwanzaa. I'm grateful that I'm got to go to the motherland. I'm grateful that I am connecting the dots of our history and understanding that yes, I'm American. Yes, I speak English. Uh, but I got out of corporate to develop my gifts, and I think a lot of people are afraid to do that. I think that we want things to be easy. It has not been easy being self-employed, but it is so fulfilling. I've been
Mhm.
through a lot of pain, like a lot of people, and people say, "Oh, you're still standing. Oh, you're still doing it." Yeah, I'm still doing it. Yes, yes, life is difficult. Yes, marriage is difficult sometimes. Yes, bearing your child is not something you expect to do. Yes, sometimes I don't get paid my rate. Yes, but when you wake up in the morning and you acknowledge your total being, your mind, your body, your spirit, when you tap into um, the invisible world of God and the elders and ah, invisible hands that are helping you and guiding you, and you could call it whatever you want to call it. I don't get upset with people how they identify their source. I've
Mhm.
gotten over that judgment. It's like whatever you need to call it, just know that there is something or someone that is guiding you. And I know in our African culture, dance and music and food and conversation and helping one another and connecting was part of our lifestyle that made us resilient. And now we don't live next door to each other.
Mhm.
We keep secrets. We're not taking care of our elders, or we're doing it by ourselves. If I could tell you all the women that I am ministering to that are exhausted because siblings are not helping them. Oh, they
Mm.
want to know about what's in the will, but when it comes to taking care of the elder, they're disappearing.
Mm.
So I'm sure you see that in your practice where you're working. As you said earlier, a lot of elders are being neglected, and I see that all the time. And that's not who we are.
Mm. Mm. I want to follow up, if you don't mind, with a question on that. But I know you were talking about the three things that you noticed. But
Mhm.
before we move on, because I want to capture those other two. But before we move on, something that you said, the relationship between our elders and the rest of the generations has been changed over the last few years. Um, what do you think happened? Because I feel like some elders, I feel like so I'm in my 40s. I feel like my generation is like, okay, well, I respect my elders. However, there's been some abuse of power in the
Mhm.
church. And
Mhm.
so we're not in the churches as much as we used to be. And there's been more push in the Black culture from my experience that you at 18, you got to get out there and you got to make it work because I did. And so as we age, I think that has sometimes has fractured our relationship with the elders. Um, just that interpersonal relationship that we have with our elders, something happened in the last few years where I'm not seeing people show up like we used to out of obligation.
Yeah. Well, there's no denying that there is abuse on many different levels. But the fact is, when you were forced to be with one another, I
Mhm.
grew up in Washington, D.C., and it was my mother and her husband, her sister and her husband, and my cousins. We lived in the same house. Um, Integration allowed us to move away from one another. But when you are forced to be there with each other, different generations living under one roof, there's going to be friction. I mean, that's just human. You're going to have friction and different opinions, but there's something about being around multi generations. There's something about being around my grandson that is so healing. And I pray that by him having the ability to be with me and my husband as grandparents, we're pouring something into him that his parents can't pour into him because they're busy trying to make a living. And there's something to be said about that. And then now with the economy the way it is, a lot of people are having to come back and live in multi-generational generations in one roof. And I think again it goes back to we want comfort. We want everything to be easy. It's not easy, but the reward, the benefit of being there for each other, strengthening each other. My father was a jeweler, Melinda. And one of the things I learned in studying his books is that gems go through a machine where they have to rub up against each other. It's called a tumbler. And it's the tumbler that makes them polished.
Mm, mm,
So the things that we call pressure, the things we call frustrations, the things that we call inconvenience, the things that we call disturbances, and this is not right. Those are the things that polish us up and make us stronger. Those are the things that mature us. I think that in this generation, they want everything easy and fast. They want that six figure right away. They want to skip the process to get to the promise. And you have to go through the process.
Mm,
And yeah, so there's no one easy answer. There's no one solution. But I love the fact that you want to have these conversations. I know we're going to do a series of this. We're not trying to offer solutions. We said together, Melinda, that we wanted to create a conversation. We want people to start thinking, like, wait a minute. I never thought about that. I never thought about the impact of integration. I never thought about, am I honoring my elders? And, I don't have the same faith based outlook that my elders did, but I
mhm,
respect them because I knew at that particular era, it was that's how they survived.
mm,
I would never put them down and say, oh, I believe differently. No, I honor that. But I also know that I live in a time where we have access to more information. We're traveling. We
mm.
have access to information, YouTube, uh, all the social medias. We can just on your phone, you could ask any question. You can go and look at the globe. You can look at a map. You can do so many things, which sometimes has a side effect because then you're not quite sure. Okay, that's what they're doing, but what am I doing? Am I comparing myself? Or am I really tapping into my authentic self? Do I have quiet time to really ask myself the kind of questions you asked me, Melinda? you know, and I think that's what elders do is that the best thing we could do is ask you questions and then answer your questions as honestly as we possibly can so you can shorten your learning curve.
Mm. Wow. So we can shorten our learning curve.
Yeah.
Won't be so painful.
And at the same time, be armored up so that when life does hit you, and it's going to hit you, it's going to hit you, that you know how to bounce back. You know how to be resilient. You know how to tap into your spiritual authority, the power of your words, the power of your mind. You know, so many faith based religions talk about God is in the temple. But what do we call this right here?
Call this
The
our
temple.
mind. The
It's your temple.
temple. The temple.
It's
Hmm.
your temple. And so when you tap into your mind, and you sit still and you say, and it says in the word of God, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that answers are there for you. Be still and know that your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are a storehouse. They are a lens into the world, and you have to be able to get a perspective that does not allow you to act like a victim. You have
Mm.
to get a perspective that says, okay, yep, this is happening. I don't like it. It's not fair. But what am I going to do? Not why did you do that to me? It's like go back and ask yourself, what can I do? Because I do a lot of counseling with people that have relationships that are broken, siblings that are not speaking, women that are like, I'm done, it's over. People are saying, this person hurt my feelings. This happened to me 20 years ago, and they haven't gotten over it. So I
Mm.
teach a lot about emotional regulation. I teach a lot about being in the present moment, and those are things that I didn't learn years ago. I didn't, nobody, you're just trying to survive. You just want to be popular at school. You just want to be, the pretty one, the smart one. You want to be on the drill team. You want to be the prom queen. You want to be the one chosen. You want to have fun. And then as you start to mature, you realize that your values start changing. And you
Mm.
realize I can't eat like I used to eat. I can't say those things I used to say. I can't ignore my finances. I can't just say what I want to say and offend people and think it doesn't matter. I've got to learn how to manage my mind, my mouth, my money, my mood, and how I manage my time.
Mm. One of the things I miss the most about my grandmother being here, both grandmothers and grandpa parents, is that there was that accountability to call
Yeah.
out, maybe you
Yeah.
ask me for money. What are you doing with your finances? That
There you
maybe
go.
somebody else wouldn't say in my life, coworker or whatever. So you mentioned some points that that came to mind. Accountability, the name can't accountability, the word accountability came to mind.
Hmm.
And the way you deliver it, to me, in my opinion, is very gentle, and it lands differently. And it may have, and I know you did this you did this on a stage, a broad stage, for a long time, hence the Emmy in the background, folks. I requested that Emmy to be in the
Oh, what
shot.
you looking at? What you looking at?
I love it. I'm so proud of it. Um, and so, and it kind of speaks to the your life work, definitely. So the delivery, that we used to get this, I think, and this might just be my perspective, but I'm not hearing this message given speaking to Black culture, which I think also reflects a lot of cultures, but I think we're a little more direct. And I think the
Mhm.
church was given that message, but there's been like this exodus from the church. So to me, you're very fresh, you're very relevant. And the way you speak, it lands in a way that I want to hear more. Not saying that
Mm.
others aren't like that, but I just think it's a rare gift. So what do you think why do you think what you say and what you do and the success you've had lands with people more?